The pendulum now has swung too
Yeah.
far. Now men are so afraid to speak to women, to look
hmm
at women, to approach women.
Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Once again, I want to welcome back Treva Brandon Scharf, the dating coach, relationship expert, and the author of Done Being Single. Pick that up. Treva, thank you for being here again.
Thank you for having me.
Trevor, today this is going to be a bit of a deep discussion, I think. What I want to talk with you about is toxic masculinity. There is such confusion out there about what, quote, women's society, what's being done to men, what's confusing men
Yeah.
about what is and isn't acceptable, and the fallout that is having on relationships. And I know you feel that because you wrote an article on it.
The pendulum, it swings, okay? And I say it all the time about Me Too. And yes, it was bad. And there are times still that there is harassment and abuse. It is out of line and uncalled for, and it's all kinds of wrong. With that said, the pendulum now has swung too
Yeah.
far, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just too much. Because
Yeah.
now, to me, it's hamstrung men. Now men are so afraid to speak to women, to look
Mm-hmm.
at women, to approach women. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the business of connecting people. I'm in the
Yeah.
business of getting people to meet. And anything that is going to be a hindrance to that, it makes me crazy.
Interesting article that I found and want to get your input on about uncomfortable truths that we really need to look at a little closer and see how that is affecting modern romance, if you will. First one here, as we already said, that masculinity is toxic, that competition, aggression, ambition, that, these are not weaknesses. They're the qualities that built our civilization.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and now toxic masculinity is being thrown around where men associate their natural traits, as it says here, strength, leadership, competitiveness, with something negative.
Yeah, that's a shame
Mm-hmm.
because I love men and manly men. And I mean, you can call them manly. I don't know. For all the reasons you just said, that's what makes I love it. Who
Yeah.
doesn't? I don't know. I defy you to find a woman over 50 that doesn't feel like they want a strong man, protective, providing man, a leader. Those are all really, really attractive, sexy
Mm-hmm.
traits.
The second one here, it's so true. Men should be more like women. That's another uncomfortable truth or modern lie. That men, they're being told now to express emotions or encouraged to express emotions. That men are really getting a push, like to be softer, more emotionally expressive, and more passive.
Really?
That's what. Yeah, I know. I know.
Really, this is again very generational. Because we grew up in a time when these were prized, these traits, these qualities were prized in men. To
Yeah.
ask a guy to soften it up or to be a little weaker is like not, I don't know what language that is. I don't know. That is so foreign to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that asking a guy to do that is unnatural.
Encouraging men, and we've had other videos on this with John Gray. In fact, this whole encouraging men to show their emotions is just it's a mistake. The whole idea of men expressing their emotions the way women do is not something that's going to work in romantic attraction.
I don't think so. And I think all of this kind of goes without saying. We have
Mm-hmm.
gotten the memo. I think
Mm-hmm.
men have gotten the message. Yes, we're living in a time now where you can be much more vulnerable, and that is sexy. I love a sensitive guy. I
Mm-hmm.
love that Robbie cries at certain times at
Mm-hmm.
things. I think that shows actually a lot of like strength and possessiveness, right? Is that the word? Self-possessed, right?
I think
That he
so.
feels that he feels secure enough in himself
Yeah.
that he can emote. I think a lot of this is a little bit old news in terms of, okay, man, we know you've heard it, and now because the pendulum has swung so
Mm-hmm.
far, now we've got to find our way back to some, right, some center grounded thinking.
Because men and women are different, and for some reason we're not allowed to say that, and it's gotten to be ridiculous from my perspective. Number 3 here, men are told they're no longer needed, that women can do anything that the man does, and they're losing their sense of purpose. What do you think about that?
You know what? In a minute, women aren't going to be needed either. Hello, sex bots, robots, romance chat bots. So, right, be careful for what you wish for. This goes into a little bit of man hating to me, which I can't stand, which is a part of feminism that I cannot stand when it turns into equal. I'm all for equal rights and opportunities and abilities, right? But then when it turns into man hating and man bashing, I'm out. I think, and that kind of borders on this. So I feel like we are, back to what, be careful for what you wish for. You don't need men. Okay. We've proven that, right? So yeah, especially at a certain age. A lot of my single girlfriends don't need men anymore. They're okay. They've got their kids and their grandkids and their pickleball and their mahjong and their canasta and their friends. And isn't that great? And that's fantastic. But do we need men? I guess, women are badass. They can buy their own homes and they can pay their bills, and and in a lot of ways they're outpacing men. But for those of us who want a warm body and those of us who want human companionship, yeah, there's always going to be a need for men.
Exactly. And
there's no shame in that. There's no shame.
No, there isn't. Yeah, the other here that leads into that men are told to be nice instead of strong, and that it's really it's the way it's written here, that a nice guy pandemic is the direct result of men being taught that being agreeable is the key to success. You want to be a nice guy.
So this stuff makes me nuts. It's so, what is it? It's like, it's Instagram shit. It's pseudo, empowering. I don't know what this is. It just makes me feel like we're not allowing people to be who they are, and we're making generalizations about an entire gender. And I wanted to say something. To be vulnerable is to be strong. To be sensitive and kind and empathetic. Those are strong man qualities.
Well, what you just said, the empathetic, all that, I actually think nice, when you try to be a nice guy, you're not yourself. And we've done videos on that nice is manipulative in many ways. I don't want to, go into a deep discussion on that. And encouraging, just be nice is terrible advice. What does that even mean? So you're somebody that you're not, or you're being somebody that you think the other person wants.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other manipulation thing. But all of these things that people are screaming about that men should be more of, to be an asshole and to be insensitive and a jerk, is someone those are weak qualities.
Yeah, that's toxic masculinity.
That tells me everything I need to know, that you are insecure and you're kind of weak and you're not very confident, because you have to rely on this sort of, I don't know, this
aggressive, assertive behavior.
Correct. This whole topic makes me insane.
I know.
It really does.
Here's this, we kind of touched on this. Men are lied to about relationships, that women may say they want a soft, overly accommodating man, but deep down they respect strength, leadership, and direction. And I can't agree with that more.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
totally. At least for women, of our age, a certain cohort of women. But I truly believe that these are instincts that are primal in men. They are evolutionary. This is who they are wired to be, and to try to shame them or change them or convince them that they should be anything other than who they're born to be is not doing anybody a favor. And ultimately, I don't know what women want. I don't know what this is. What do you want, women? Do you want a guy capable man, and a decisive, capable guy that can take charge and be manly, I guess. I don't get why.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between being strong and being controlling.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's a whole other discussion. This last one here I want to bring out is kind of sums it all up, that men should be heroes, but only when they're told to be. And great examples here. Men are expected to fight off intruders, to defend women if a woman is in peril. So on one hand, society criticizes men for being too dominant, too aggressive, or too assertive. And on the other hand, moments of danger, when there's danger present, that's suddenly when masculinity is needed again.
Again, anything, it has to be moderation, and context is everything. Do you need to be a he-man every minute of your day? No, you don't. We all have masculine and feminine energy in us. We are sensitive at certain points in time, and we step up and tough it out when we need to be, men and women. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the beauty of the genders and what we all bring to the table. But to wag fingers and shame people, men in particular, for just being who I think they want to be and need to be, is counterproductive. And ultimately, it really just takes away from what we do best. And then women who deny themselves this and try to talk themselves out of wanting a guy who's a guy's guy. I don't see the point in that. And again, I speak from a certain generation, and maybe things are different now for younger people. This is where all this advice comes from, by the way. All of this stuff feels like it was written by or conceived by a 20-something, a millennial. A lot of it is, to me, it's unnecessary stuff that is, I don't know, interesting to talk about.
But it is affecting our generation, because men are confused with, and you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, about the whole approaching what is acceptable, what isn't. In fact, as we close this segment, I want to refer to the article you wrote, and I'll link to it as well. That being a gentleman isn't toxic masculinity. And that's where, as women, what have we done to the romantic process? Now we're losing out on, because men are sometimes afraid to do anything. Let's talk about that for a minute. What is the difference between a gentleman and toxic masculinity?
To me, being a gentleman is charming, and it's courtly. I am of an age where those qualities were valued. Okay. I like having a door held open. I like having my chair pushed in. I find that incredibly romantic and sexy and appealing. Yeah, I can pull my own chair and I can open my own door. I mean, duh. But there's something so sweetly old-fashioned and charming and endearing. That is not toxic. I agree. Those are lovely things that are classic and timeless. And I hope to God that we never lose that. If this thing goes too far, if feminism goes too far, and Me Too and all of these things, all of these requirements that you just listed go too far, there's going to be blowback, and I think there already is. And in a way, I'm kind of glad there is.
And this comes from you, me, and you. Is we're feminists. We are absolute feminists, but I think in the good sense, not this ridiculous stuff that is involved too. And like you wrote, I love these. These are so Treva-esque, but you put in there in your article a word to the ladies and a note to men. You said to the ladies, stop getting your feminist knickers in a knot. Old-fashioned chivalry isn't an insult to your gender, and someone acting like a gentleman doesn't take your power away. Absolutely. Yes. And then the note to men, there's no excuse for bad behavior. Don't give women a reason to hate men. Being a man doesn't give you a license to be a dick. That's toxic masculinity. That's Treva.
Yes.
Is there what else do you want to add to this?
Well, just so that anything taken to an extreme, okay, is never good. And I just wish women dial it down. I get you're angry. I'm angry too. And yes, we are progressive and as independent as they come, right? But I don't want to be alpha all day long. I want to be in my feminine energy, and I leave room for that. And that's so lovely for me to be able to just let the man be the man. And I get into this with Robbie all the time because I'm so used to doing everything myself from being single for as long as I was, right? I'm capable, and I forget, oh my God, I have a partner and a guy who can help me out and do this with me. There's nothing toxic about that. Everybody brings their own energy to the table. It's only when it's taken to the extreme does it become like what I was saying. Don't be a dick. Don't give women a reason to hate you, and women let up a little bit and don't get so bent out of shape.
Exactly. Treva, thank you. I mean, I always love talking with you. These are such great topics and controversial. Depending on who watches this, we can get some really interesting comments.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of this politically correct stuff when it comes to, you can't, that toxic masculinity. This isn't about masculinity in my mind. It's about shitty behavior. Now, I've said it. I use the S word.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see the comments because the truth is, you and I are very pro men, and I'm an advocate, and I feel bad for what's going on. It's just gotten really out of control. Again, my whole job is to get people together, and these kinds of things that turn into contempt and hostility and hatred do not help a thing.
No.
Better we just let go, let down, dial down. Okay, accept each other and as best we can, and just don't be a jerk, and don't be a ball breaker, ladies. Like, don't be a dick. Women, don't bust balls.
Perfect. On that note, let's end this discussion. And as you said, look forward to the comments. Make sure that you check out Treva's book. There's so much fun stuff in there. If you like her here, you'll love this book.
Thank you so much.
And if you want to coach with Treva directly, especially Guy, you mostly coach guys, I think.
Yes, I do.
You do.
Yes, I do.
And this doesn't mean that we're not anti-woman by any means, but it takes two in a relationship, and that's I think what's passing a lot of people by these days.
I call it out when I see it. You got to call it out, both sides.
Exactly. So thank you again, and I look forward to another conversation with you soon.
Thank you so much.
TV.
Thanks, babe.
Bye.